Have you ever wondered what life was like for the very first generations of humanity? I'm not just talking about Adam and Eve or even Cain and Abel. I mean, what happened next? The Bible gives us these fascinating genealogies, these long lists of names, and it's easy to just skim over them. But if we pause and look closer, we find some truly profound stories hidden in plain sight. Today, we're diving into the life of one of these figures, Enos, the son of Seth. His story is short, just a few verses, but it marks a massive turning point for humanity. So let's set the scene. Adam and Eve have been exiled from the Garden of Eden. Their first son, Cain, has committed the first murder, killing his brother Abel. It's a dark and tragic start for the human family. In response to this heartbreak, Eve gives birth to another son, Seth, whose name means appointed. She sees him as God's provision. A replacement for Abel, Seth grows up and has a son of his own, and his name is Enos. Now, the name Enos itself is significant. In Hebrew, Enos means man, but it often carries the connotation of being mortal, frail, or weak. This isn't an insult, it's a statement of reality. After the fall, humanity is no longer immortal in the way they were in the garden. They are fragile, they are subject to death. The name Enos serves as a constant reminder of this new human condition. It's a humble acknowledgement of their dependence and mortality. And this is where we get to the most important verse about Enos. Found in Genesis chapter 4, verse 26, it says, "To Seth also a son was born, and he called his name Enos. At that time people began to call upon the name of the Lord." This is huge. Let's break it down. At that time people began to call upon the name of the Lord. What does that actually mean? Up until this point, we've seen individuals interacting with God. Adam and Eve walked with God in the garden. Cain and Abel brought offerings to God. But this verse suggests something new, something communal. The phrase "to call upon the name of the Lord" is a powerful expression used throughout the Bible. It's not just about saying God's name. It implies a deliberate act of seeking God, of worship, prayer, and acknowledging His authority and character in a public and collective way. Think about the context. The line of Cain described just before this was building cities, creating instruments, and developing culture, but with no mention of God. Theirs was a story of human achievement, but one marked by pride and violence. In stark contrast, the line of Seth, starting with Enos, begins a different kind of legacy. Instead of focusing solely on building a human-centered world, they turn their focus upward. They recognize their frailty, their Enos-ness, and in that humility they reach out to their Creator. This was the beginning of public, organized worship. It was the moment humanity, as a community, started to seek a relationship with God again after the tragedy and separation that had defined their early history. It wasn't about building a tower to reach heaven like their descendants would later try at Babel. It was about calling out from where they were, in their weakness, to a God they knew was powerful and merciful. This legacy continues through the generations. The line of Seth, which begins this practice of calling on the Lord's name, is the very line that leads to Noah, the man who finds favor with God and is saved from the great flood. It's the line that eventually leads to Abraham, and all the way down to Jesus. The choice made in the time of Enos echoed through eternity. It established a pattern for all believers to come. In our frailty, we find our greatest strength when we call upon the name of the Lord. So, the next time you read through those genealogies in Genesis, don't just skip over the names. Remember Enos. Remember the man whose name meant mortal, but whose generation began a timeless tradition of worship. His story reminds us that no matter how far we feel we've fallen, no matter how fragile we are, the simple, humble act of calling on God can change everything, not just for ourselves, but for generations to come. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden gems of the Bible. See you next time.